Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. As promised, I am going to be doing another book review tonight. So I will say that most of the books that I read are more spiritual in nature, maybe more philosophical. I read a bunch of books about comparative religion and about yoga and meditation. And honestly, I was just feeling a little bit like, oh my goodness, I need a break. I need to think about something other than these things for just a minute. So I went to the bookstore and I sort of looked around and I found a couple of interesting books, and so one of them, I'm going to talk about it tonight. Now, I am probably not going to say the author's name right. I'm sorry about that, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay, so this is the book that I'm going to be talking about. So here's the title. All right, it's called The Book Collectors, a band of Syrian rebels and the stories that carried them through a war. And then the author's name is Delphine Menoui. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Forgive me. Sorry that I don't know how to say that. So this is a very different kind of book for me. Definitely, although I certainly do have political opinions, it's not like a big part of who I am. It's not a big part of what I want to talk about. Definitely not big into war, learning, and I do like history, but I would not necessarily call myself a history buff. I love history in as much as it can teach me. So I'm not so concerned with like the facts, the figures, and even always the names, but more the principles that I might learn from those facts and figures and names. And the same thing really goes with any kind of war documentary, war literature or history. I mean, it's just not where I'm at. But I do like to learn from those things. So this book was fascinating. The first thing I like about it, it's a hardback. It's such a nice little size. It's one of the smaller formatted books. I did get it from the bookstore, but you can definitely get it off of Amazon as well. So the book talks about a war. It talks about a person in charge who doesn't treat all of their people the same, who has a problem with people who are a little bit more independent. There are definitely there's a lot of labels and kind of accusations, and I want to tell you that basically I just wanted to see the humanity. I just wanted to see the humanity in the book. So it's about a group of Syrian, I believe it was all men, that basically their little area was bombed by this leader and destroyed and cut off from provisions, and it was just terrible, just as war is, and it was inhumane. But this group of people, this group of men, started going into the homes that were bombed and destroyed, and many people fled. There were only a very small percentage of the population that stayed in this area, but these men went into the homes that were bombed, and they gathered books that were left behind in the rubble, and they basically started a library, like an underground library. And the cool thing was that anytime they had taken like a book from someone's house, they wrote the person's name in the book, and because in their minds it was their intention to return that book to the rightful owner once the conflict was over, once it had passed. So they started this underground library, and there was a time that this library brought hope to the people in the town, the people that were just practically being barraged by bombs, and they were starving. But this little underground library, it provided hope and it provided inspiration. I can't remember the book. I think it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Became a big like top checked out book. Like I don't know what the word is, not a top seller, but just like a very popular book, and they were just exposed to ideas that maybe a lot of them had never been exposed to. And so they were reading and they were coming together as a community, and they grew intellectually, they grew in inspiration, and they had hope. And of course, you know, things eventually got very much worse, and one of the people who started the library actually did not make it out of the war situation. And you know, eventually the siege kind of ended in a way, and people, you know, left the city. But it was such a great book of hope, and I just kind of wanted to read a passage that kind of like summarized what I thought kind of summarized you know, the message of the book. I tell myself that whatever may come, these young Syrian heroes have an indestructible story to share. Facing the destruction of bombs, they didn't just save books, they created a new vocabulary. Day and night, they never stopped believing in the power and invincibility of speech. They broke the silence and they took up the story. With their books and slogans and magazines, their graffiti and literary creations, they resisted the rigid verses of war, beating out a cadence that wasn't cannon fire. Words versus violence, a language of peace and survival for the next generation. So, this was a fantastic book. I absolutely recommend it. It is a story of hope, and it's a story of the human spirit and resiliency, and it's a story of the power of words and knowledge. So I will include the link down below this video. I encourage you to check it out. It's fascinating, and if you do read it, let me know what you think about it. Let me know how you feel about it. And you know, you can read this book and you can definitely sort of get into the war and the political aspect of it, and if that's something that, you know, you sort of like to analyze and think about, that's definitely in this book. But what I got out of it was a book of hope for humanity. So anyway, here's the book again. The book Collectors. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I will see you next time. Again, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.